Hi, I'm B. Deshay, and this is To the Moon. So, the title of today's word is Fresh Start, and that just so happens to be what I titled my morning. So, God kind of led me through basically what I was experiencing today and connected it with today's verse of the day, and then let me know that that was the message I'd be releasing. So, if you don't have the Bible app, today's verse of the day is in Philippians 2:13, and I'll be using the Passion Translation. It says, "God will continuously revitalize you, implanting you with the passion to do what pleases Him." Literally right after I journaled this, I was like, this perfectly describes my morning and just how things have flowed. So yesterday I mentioned a little bit about how God kind of gave me some instructions or whatever and structured my day, and how I had to kind of relate that back to, well, not relate it back to, but use the written message that I released to kind of help me navigate through that. So what happened, I was, getting ready to go to sleep. This was Saturday night, so I was in like my wind down time and prayer time with God before I go to bed. And He led me to a video by Latoya Okia. It was titled something about your habits. I can't remember what she titled it, but it was something about habits. And she was talking about how, like, over or like 50% of your day is habitual. So most of what you're going to do in the day is already planned and set in stone by the habits that you have. So if you have, some bad habits in place, or if, a good portion of your day is already structured with things that you may not actually supposed to be doing or aren't in alignment with what God actually wants you to do, then you're kind of already like not really in the greatest space to be as successful as you need to be or want to be. And so I was listening to it, and I paused it and I was like, God, is there some bad habits that I have that are structuring my day? And He told me yes. And I was like, what are they? And as like the responses started coming in, I'm going to be honest, usually when you ask God these questions, or when He's bringing something like this to light, He's more than likely already been putting some type of conviction on your heart or on your mind. So you shouldn't be too surprised by the things that He tells you. And honestly, I wasn't. And this was kind of Him just letting me know that, okay, you've been thinking about these things, you've been wanting change, but now I'm telling you that, it's time for you to make a change with these things. So I was like, okay. And I had to remember like the word that I literally just released, and not kind of take that as a rebuke or as Him condemning me or start feeling guilty or start shaming myself, because He was correcting me because He loves me. And that's a very big difference. And when I was able to accept it like that, I was like, okay, so how do I make these changes? Like, what do you want me to do? And that's when things started to change. So yesterday was kind of, the beginning of me making the steps to make those changes and setting myself up to have, a great week. And when I woke up this morning, it started to flow how I needed to, and even from last night. So when He said that, I was like, that's actually perfect, because on the surface, certain things that He tells you to do, you may feel like, oh my God, this is hard, or I don't really, you may not initially feel like you want to do it or any of these other things, but He's going to make it to where you want to do it and you're excited to do it, and it'll be a lot easier for you to stay in alignment with what He's calling you to do. And so, that first time, the first step, the first day, whatever it is, may be, or it will be probably the hardest step to take. But once you do it and you see how much better what He instructed you to do is versus what you were already doing or what you thought was better for you, it's like going to be like, forget that old way, like I want to do it your way. This is it. And that's Him revitalizing you and implanting you with the passion to do exactly what He wants you to do. because what pleases him is ultimately going to end up pleasing you. So it's not going to feel like something, you're being forced to do, or a chore, or something you have to make yourself do. Now, it may not always be easy, like waking up at 3:45 in the morning, but if you come to him in that moment, if you talk to him, he'll give you exactly what you need to do exactly what he's asking you to do. You just have to be honest. There are literally some mornings my alarm goes off and I'm like, God, I do not have the strength to get out of this bed on my own. You're gonna have to make something shake. And I'll lay there for a few moments, and all of a sudden it's like this burst of something hits me, and I jump out of bed, and then it's like, well, I'm out of bed now, so I might as well get started, with what I know I need to do in my morning. So just be open, be honest, be vulnerable with him. If there's anybody who you're complete, raw, honest, vulnerable, sometimes broken, sometimes not having it all together, sometimes messed up self with, it should be God, because he is the only one who can take that and turn it into something good. So don't try to hide that from him. Don't try to, oh, I got to do this on my own. No, if it was always easy, then you wouldn't need him. And that goes against everything that he's told us. So it's okay to need him, and it's okay to lean on him, you know. So I wrote, I'd be willing to go out on a limb here and say that 10 times out of 10, what you're already doing, what you think you want, is more habitual than anything, and is not actually pleasing nor fulfilling you in the ways that you need. You just don't recognize it yet because it's all that you know. But when you're obedient and show up for him anyway, despite it seeming hard, completely unfamiliar, etc., he's going to open your eyes to a world, a feeling you didn't even know existed, and you're going to want to do the things his way instead of the way you've been doing them. That void you've been feeling, that change you've been itching for, the fulfillment you thought worldly things would bring you, is right on the other side of your obedience and willingness to relinquish how you've always done things. You can't ask him for better and then expect things to stay exactly as they are, as they were. Sorry, but he's a God of growth and evolution that involves never-ending change. Stagnancy is not of God. Stagnancy is one way to judge if you're in alignment with God's will. If nothing around you or inside of you has changed except the temperature, then it's time to tap in and see what you've been missing, what steps you need to take to step back into alignment and get things moving again. When you're in partnership with God, there's always going to be some type of growth and movement, be it completely internally, meaning your mindset, your heart, your relationship with him, etc., or external things that you can see and witness, like your finances, your professional life, etc. They won't always be grand jumps. Others may not even notice, but you will, and most importantly, he always notices. He can't reward work that's not being done. He doesn't want a relationship in which you expect him to do everything and you're not willing to do anything. In the words of Bishop Samuel Blakes, you expect God to do the super, but you won't do the natural. This is a two-way relationship. He gives you instructions and guidance. You act and put in the work. He multiplies, and then you reap the benefits. So don't ever think that the work that you do for him or with him is in vain. And I know I probably said that several times, but that's because it's a very important concept to grasp. So there may be things that, he instructs you to do, or things that you're like, you plan out, you're like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then you end up forgetting about that or whatever. This is why I stress the importance of journaling, because yesterday I was going through some of my old journals and I came across one from December 20th, 2022. And in there, I wrote out like a schedule for my week of how my days should be structured and, the things that I do. And I never, at the time, it didn't fit what was going on in my life and my circumstances, so I never actually did it. But when I went back to read it yesterday and discovered that it's everything that I needed for my right now. So I didn't have to come up with a schedule. I didn't have to try to figure out how to be in alignment with what God was instructing me to do, and trying to replace the habits in my day that he, highlighted needed to be fixed. He'd already given me the solution months ago. last year. And so that just goes to show that nothing is ever wasted. Nothing is ever in vain. And sometimes he will give you the solution before you even realize what the problem is. Because when I wrote that, I had no idea my life would look like what it looks right now. When I say he has done a complete 180, like, I am so far removed from the life that I thought I was going to be living. It's not even funny. And so literally nothing in any of the seasons, in your wilderness season, in your I'm not quite in the promised land but I'm no longer really in the wilderness season, nothing is ever wasted. So just be diligent. And that's why I stress so much the importance of journaling and keeping track of your conversations with God, your prayers, what happens in your day, because the only way you can go back to receive what you need and retrace those blessings and those prayers and see how he's showing up in your life today is if you keep track of it. Whether you choose to write, whether you choose to type, whether you choose to do video journals or voice memo journals, or like me, use all of the above, do something that allows you to be able to trace your prayer genealogy and your conversations with God, because it is never going to steer you wrong. And a prior version of you may have the answers that current you needs. And what's crazy is that also in that journal, I wrote that I wanted me at that time to be laying the foundation and doing all the work that future me would need, and setting her up for success, so that when it was her time to shine, she wouldn't have to go back and do work that I should have done. She could hit the ground rolling. And he answered that prayer abundantly. So don't discount the work that God can do. Don't try to guess how he's going to use things, or try to put your mind's limitations on what he can do and how he can work, because you're never going to get it right. So just allow him to lead and go with the flow. And you may not always get it right, but as long as you're trying, you're earnestly working and seeking him, and trying to do better, and taking the steps, and evolving and growing and transforming and all of the above, healing, then things are going to work out for your good. And no one else can judge whether or not you're doing what God has asked you to do. No one else can judge the posture of your heart. No one knows if you're giving all that you have but him. So no one else's opinion matters but his. So do what you're called to do. Give what you have to give in any given day. And if all you have to give is 1%, give him your 1% and watch him multiply it. So that's all. I love you. I pray that you love you, and just know that God loves you right up to the moon and back. Bye.